All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Writer's Cut. This is episode 9. I am your host, Edwin Acevedo, and I am here with a brand new guest, somebody that I'm going to get to know like you're going to get to know. We're going to get deep into his writing influences and then, everything about him. John, how are you, brother?
I'm awesome, Edwin. Thanks for having me on. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, man, it's nice meeting you. This came together pretty quickly. Doing this writers cut thing has been really kind of fun experience talking with different writers and creators. So it's always good to meet somebody new that's trying to do this comic thing, man. It's only people who've been through the fire kind of get it. So,
Totally, dude.
Yeah, it's
Totally.
definitely fun. We're getting into your project a little later. We're gonna pump out the mailing list. It should be on the description of the stream, so you can go check that out and sign up. But yeah,
Perfect.
man, I'm just gonna go tweet this out. Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody out there while I tweet this out?
Sure. So, my name is John Oschuk, and you can catch me at Atlas of Cydonia. That's my Twitter and Instagram handles. I also have a YouTube channel that I do with my partner Jay Doyle. He's at Devilish Doyle, and our show is called Desolate Soul Studios. And we interview comic book artists and writers, and that we're trying to tap into some other creatives also that we can bring in just to really explore the creative journey. But right now we're obviously focused on the comic book market, and it's a lot of fun. We've been able to meet a lot of people. We're using that to obviously build a bit of a platform to promote our own book. And we've been doing the YouTube now since basically November, so like 6 months or so, and that's going along really well. And our project itself is about half done, and we're super happy with it.
Yeah, you guys have a great channel. I've caught some of your streams.
Oh,
Really
thanks.
good interviews. So
Yeah,
I'll drop
Jay's the magician. He's the leader, and I hang on to his cape.
let's say we got somebody in the chat.
General Piggy, how you doing, dude?
Hail to the one and only General Piggy. He's awesome. Oh, we also got Fana in the house. Hey, Fana. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Hey, Fanta, how you doing?
That's right.
We've had she's popped into our stream sometimes too.
Yeah, Fana's a
big purple
true
hearts
supporter. Just always down to share and support everybody, which is awesome. To see.
Absolutely.
If I can drop the link to your channel here. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no worries. Take your time. But yeah, it's a real unique experience trying to put together a comic book when you have never done it, because there's just always something new that's popping up that requires your attention. And then, network or not networking, like bringing it, trial consistent and reliable. It's been a lot of fun though. The journey has been great so far.
Yeah, it's it's a lot of things that go into it, but it's so rewarding when you come out the other side and you get to hold that first comic in your hand, and all that hard work has paid off. So it's definitely definitely experience. It's all headaches are worth it in the end, but there are a lot of headaches. So you gotta get the Tylenol already. Get that Advil. So
yeah, most definitely. We actually had a really great experience yesterday. We were yesterday was Free Comic Book Day. I don't know if you've ever been involved with any of those, but we were at a local comic book shop that's been supporting us. It's called Galaxy Comics here in Winnipeg. I'm in Canada, and we were invited to set up a table and have some prints available and just do some promotion. We were live streaming from the event, and it was a lot of fun. We sold some prints. Jay sold some black and whites that he had drawn from some Marvel and DC characters, And then the highlight of the day, really, because we didn't know what to expect, but this group of teenagers from a local outreach center came through, and they were part of a reading. I shouldn't say teenagers, kids. Some of them were pretty young, but they were part of this like reading program. And the top 6 kids of this reading program, I forget how many the man told me that they have in the group, but the top 6 were allowed this like special day, and it was 17 hours from the morning until the night. And they started off in the early morning doing some stuff, and then they came to the comic book shop, and we hung out with them for about half an hour. And they ended up like going to a local restaurant, like kind of it's called Ichiban. It's like a Japanese steakhouse. So they were doing that, and then they were going to end it with going to see Guardians of the Galaxy 3 last night. And it was just like this crazy day for these little kids. But it was fun having them. They were drawing with Jay and hanging out with us, learning about our story. It's great, great engaging with kids.
Yeah, man. So it's a shame. Like I don't think they're introduced to comics anymore. Like I was used to. When you were young. That's the age that you grab them.
Mm-hmm.
When they're young and kind of introduce them to this really unique kind of art form.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of been missing why comics haven't been growing, because they're introduced to a lot of other stuff like anime and manga and all this other stuff, but kind of traditional comics don't really hit them at that age like it used to. So we need to get back to that.
They used to be everywhere too, right? Like you used to be able to get them at gas stations and everywhere at one point.
Yeah, I discovered them at a local like store. Had like a spinner rack, bunch of Marvel comics, and that's when I first kind of discovered my first handful of comics. Man, I didn't even know comics had like stores for actual, because everywhere that I saw them, I saw them at like grocery stores, liquor stores, places. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks everybody who hanging out with us. Please like and share the stream. Let everybody know we're here hanging out. But yeah, we just want to get into some writing influences. It's obviously anybody who's read comics or whatever kind of form, we all have like our favorites. So I just kind of wanted to share a couple of mine. We can go one after the other if you like, or you can just raffle them off.
Fire away.
Yeah. So as you can see on the screen there, one that I talk about all the time, it's Geoff Johns. He did Green Lantern Rebirth, along with tons of other very good, very fun comic books. Jeff really kind of was the guy who re-sparked my love for comics, like around 99, 2000, kind of fell out of love with comics. So I took like a couple-year break, and then it wasn't until I picked up a random issue of Wizard, and they announced that Hal Jordan was coming back. And I was like, that's really interesting. I'm one of those people that is a big Hal Jordan fan, and didn't like the way he was done in Emerald Twilight. So him coming back, I didn't even know who Geoff Johns was. I was just like, all right, maybe I'll check this out. Then a couple of months later, I picked up Green Lantern Rebirth #1 at one of the closest comic book shops that was there for a buddy of mine. And man, that issue just blew me away, man. It just hooked me right back. I got that the 13-year-old me, always say like, that's what I want to come out when I'm reading a comic book. And that's what happened when I read Rebirth. It just brought back the love that I had for it. It had incredible art by EVS, but it was really the storytelling. It was one of the things that, as a fan, that I've always had a problem with is most writers, I don't think, know how to write Hal Jordan. I think they write him in kind of like a hard traveling heroes, but that's not really, that's an outlier. That wasn't how Hal Jordan was supposed to be written. And the thing I like about Johnson is he centers how he's supposed to be written. He's Maverick, Maverick with a power ring.
Gotcha. Cool.
He's completely arrogant, but he's also incredibly selfless. Like
right.
Like a lot of these guys, if they weren't given superpowers and stuff, they would never be superheroes. Hal's an actual superhero. Like,
interesting.
He's the kind of guy he would go into a burning building to save somebody.
Right, without a ring or without superpowers.
Just because that's who he is. Like
Uh-huh.
he's that guy, and not too many guys are like that. That's what makes him unique. He's literally just like he's built different. His mindset is different. He'll lay his life down for somebody. He doesn't do it for fame or glory or anything. He does it because that's how he was brought up, and his dad sacrificed himself.
Mm-hmm.
He had this plane that he's doing, and the plane got out of control, so he had to take the plane away from the public and basically crash it, and lost his life that way. He
Wow.
saw that sacrifice early on in his life, so that's what he's about. So the fact that you give a guy like that superpowers, you know, that makes
Mm-hmm.
him completely unique more than anybody else. But
Well,
people
that's
don't.
really good.
Yeah.
That's really great character building too for Hal, right? Having
Hmm.
his father perform that
Yeah.
and just instill those values. It's kind of like the Uncle Ben or Superman growing up on the
Yeah.
farm. It's just instilling these simple values that you can build character and story on that will be really impactful for the reader.
Yeah, and that's Jeff got a lot of that right. Just the way he wrote him. It wasn't just from Rebirth to like the regular series to all the big events. Hal always had that voice that had been missing for a long time. And even after John's left, most guys just can never get that. They either play too much to the conservative Hal, or they play too much to the Hal being kind of a jerk. But they don't really understand kind of the real grounded nature that he has.
Hmm.
So, Jeff to me just completely, as far as like current writers, I place him number one.
Wow.
I actually him and he's a big influence on me, especially for like I used his script, which he put out like a Blackest Night director's cut comic, which has his entire script, and I remember just pouring over that script. It was
Cool.
the first
That's
ever
awesome.
like comic book script I'd ever kind of seen actually written out, and
Hmm.
you can see how he puts notes to his artist and all this other really cool stuff. It's super
Like behind the
interesting.
scenes stuff.
Yeah, so you get to see like a full script for like an issue, and you see like how he directs his artist when he just lets his artist loose. All these kind of
Hmm.
things to me were super interesting, especially as I was writing my first ever comic. So he definitely had like a big influence. So yeah, Jeff.
Yeah, I love that. Like getting into the writer or the artist's head and seeing how they produce what they do, and I think if you approach it with that mindset, you'll definitely become a better writer or artist, whatever it is your medium is. But being able to just almost like put your ego aside and just take that information and knowledge and then put it into what you're producing yourself, you can't help but get better.
Yeah, it's a definitely it's a big influence. What about you? What are some of your influences?
Well, in the comic books, um, like my biggest has to be the original Infinity Gauntlet.
Oh
That
yeah,
that run, it almost was a curse to me because I love those big epic storylines, and that's what Jay and I are working on with Atlas of Cydonia. But you have Thanos, and he's out in outer space doing his thing. And when I started reading that, I didn't know who he was because I was pretty young and I was new to comics.
yep,
But then you have that defining moment of the snap, which obviously they did in the movie, right? And
yep,
Infinity War,
hmm,
and just seeing the disaster that caused in the comic universe of Marvel at the time. Like half of the heroes are gone. Like he wiped out the Fantastic Four, and then having the different heroes reacting. Like there's a great panel or a page rather of Spider-Man just hanging out in the wall looking down on a street, and like he's just kind of thinking in his head, monologuing like everything's pretty quiet, it's good tonight, I might be able to call it early. And then all of a sudden his spider senses just start to explode, and obviously like they do the graphics or the art to make it look like that. And then he looks back down at the street, and half of the people are gone, and everybody's freaking out, and you're just like, oh, this is a different type of event and a different type of comic. And then you have the fourth issue of that series, which for some reason when I was a kid I missed purchasing it and struggled to find it. But
Oh,
that's the one
people
where
people
all the
don't know the
heroes,
struggle, man. People
yeah.
don't know the struggle back in the day, man. You'd be like, you miss one, you'd be like, damn it, where can I get it? It's not like that. You
Hmm.
miss that, and now you can just order it, one click. Nah, back in
So
the day,
easy.
man, you're just like frustrated. You're like, oh, what did I miss?
Well, today you don't even.
Gotta read the fan letters to see what I missed. The recap.
Absolutely. I mean, you could even just find the issue online, right, and just read it online for free.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so like that fourth one was great because it was all the heroes fighting Thanos in outer space, and like he turned the Infinity Gauntlet off to like prove himself to Lady Death, who he was trying to like woo, which was a big factor of the story that was missing from the movies, was that Thanos was doing all of this stuff out of love. And like his promise to Death was to wipe out half the universe. And when you're reading that idea as a kid, you're just like, what? Like wipe out half the universe? That's wild. But yeah, for sure that one. And then obviously Spider-Man, like Revenge of the Sinister Six was a big one that was drawn by Eric Larson. Yeah. And then for a lot of X-Men. Obviously, I had the early Jim Lee run, where he was just producing that amazing art with introducing Omega Red and just all that great stuff, right?
Issues,
classic Magneto, obviously. Yeah, great stuff. But then as a kid, like before that, I was really into like making my own stories. So I'm basically like almost drawing like little kid comic books. Mm-hmm. But then I got into reading novels, and I read a lot of fantasy. That was my real big passion. Like a lot of Forgotten Realms, for anybody who knows what Forgotten Realms is like a kind of a D&D world. Mm-hmm. And then obviously J.R.R. Tolkien, and basically anything I could get my hands on. And that's been a big influence on me in my own writing, because the story we're producing is epic fantasy with a lot of Japanese flavor to it. But at the same time, I study history as a hobby, and I try to incorporate a lot of that into my writing. Because once you start learning
any specific thing about history, any like specific timeline or anything?
Honestly, all of it. But I love like the greatest story that has never been really done well on television or film is Alexander the Great. Because you could honestly do, I don't even know how many seasons you would work down, but the level of violence and ancient and like the court, like the royal court of like his father, who's like assassinated right in front of him, and a lot of people think Alexander and his mom were involved in it, and then the fallout of his Alexander the Great dies, his king were strongest, and he had these 7 generals who were like his or his father's generals. So there were these all these really incredible men, and they all ended up forming their own dynasties. So Ptolemy formed the Ptolemaic dynasty, which was Egypt. So Cleopatra, who there's a movie coming out that has some controversy because she was cast black, and the people of Egypt are up in arms about it, because they're like, no, that's not historically accurate. Like if you're going to talk about Cleopatra, you have to do it right. And she's Greek because she was a descendant of this general who served Alexander the Great. And it's just like an HBO series. And then reading that type of stuff into the story,
that would definitely have to be
Mongolian
done
history
over like a. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to add, like, Mongolian history is fascinating because they conquered the world. It was the largest land empire ever founded, and I read some a Forgotten Realms book back in the day. I don't recall the title, but it was inspired by that concept of these nomadic horse archers. And they basically they do the Mongolian invasion, except they have different names, and it's in the world of Forgotten Realms. And it's just history is so cool because you look back and we live in such an easy, blessed time because like we're safe, there's food, there's clean water, you're warm all the time, like things are generally easy. And then when you look back, it was pretty hard back in the day, and we're kind of living like the best of all kings today, but we take it for granted.
Yeah, definitely. No, man, I would love to see something like that done. I'm a big fan of TV series Rome.
Oh yeah.
I think I would have loved to see a couple more seasons of that to really kind of go deep into a
Hmm.
lot of that stuff. So something that's made with care like that would be incredible to see, like stuff about Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, even some a couple of TV shows that touch on the raid of the White Leopard are Vikings, obviously, which is
Hmm.
a great show. And
Yes.
then one that just finally officially wrapped up is called The Last Kingdom on Netflix. And it's the story of this character named Uhtred. And and this is a fascinating thing from the story and character building, is the first episode opens with him as a child. And then he gets taken by Danes after like his father is killed. And he's basically put into the water by his new Danish father. But when he comes out of the water, he's grown up. And that's the character you're going to follow now. This is the warrior, Uhtred. And it's neat to have that big time jump, but they did it really well. Because obviously that's a real struggle when you're writing, right? Like you don't know where the story should begin. Like how far back do you want to introduce your main character or even like antagonist if the antagonist is going to be a major point of view character in the story.
Hmm.
But Last Kingdom does it really well, and it's I actually just wrapped up season 1 last night again. I've been rewatching it because it's so good, and
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it makes me think of your book because you got those Danes on their longboats, and they're just a problem.
Yeah, they are causing all sorts of havoc.
Always.
Yeah. So yeah, another one of my influences is Kurt Busiek. His Avengers run with George Perez. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's as good a team book as there's ever been. Taking all the classic kind of runs from the past on Avengers and updating it and just kind of creating big epic stories with the world's kind of mightiest heroes. But my
Mm-hmm.
personal favorite story is actually the JLA Avengers he did. People know like the Marvel DC crossovers,
Mm-hmm.
kind of hit and miss, but JLA Avengers was George Perez's dream book. He's something that he wanted to do more than anything and had it in his contract that if one day Marvel and DC finally agreed to do it, that his contract would allow him to complete it. And we got, him to do his masterpiece. It's just the book artistically is just as action packed a comic book as you will ever see, but it's made better by the fact that Kurt Busiek, understands all these characters, both from Marvel and DC, and gives each character, each side, each hero, all of that stuff, equal kind of moments. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many great epic from Superman beating Thor to like the response of the Avengers when they see Thor defeated, how they just unleash on Superman and just
Hmm.
take him out. And it's just such a powerful moment of like brotherhood and just
Yeah.
like friendship. And then all these characters feel real when you're reading it, even though they're in this kind of fantastic situation. And each issue tells its own kind of story in like the bigger picture. It's really kind of fantastic. You get cameos by Barry Allen and Hal Jordan before they're both brought back. It was
Hmm.
like years before they brought back, which is fantastic. And then you get like big kind of epic, Superman holding Captain America's shield and Thor's hammer, at
Oof.
the end of the big epic fight, Hawkeye saving the day. All of these like just great, fantastic fan moments that you wanted to
Awesome.
see in this story. And it's something that just kind of brought a smile to my face. And like I said, sadly George Perez is no longer here.
Hmm.
One of the greatest uh comic book creators ever. But at least he left us a piece of art, and along with Kurt Busiek, who wrote the hell out of this series. And I think this is like a masterpiece. And hopefully, DC and Marvel will one day get together and honor George Perez, and we'll put out like a big omnibus of it.
Oh yeah.
Kind of put it out as a tribute to him because it deserves it. So
They definitely deserves. I mean, talk about an all-star crossover, right?
yeah.
Having Justice League and the Avengers going over together and making that book must have been so much fun. Like I'm sure he was just chomping at the bit for ever to
He
do that, and like
waited
all
waited
the
his whole life, waited his whole
Yeah.
life for it, like the idea that he was actually under contract with another comic book company, and Marvel and DC both came to him, I think says all that needs to be said about like the respect and the talent that George has. Nobody else
No
is gonna
kidding.
touch that book except him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like when you finally got it and you're like, you always worry like, is this gonna like live up to the hype? You know, is this book
Mm-hmm.
gonna like really give uh what people want to see? And then like I said, I think both men delivered, and it's a fantastic book, and it's just like something that that inspired me, like every once in a while I'll go back to read it, and it just always makes me smile. I think that's all you can hope for when you revisit a comic book, and it still makes you feel like the first time you read it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And
That
then
makes it a good book.
the last one here is people know my first book was The Ace.
Mm-hmm.
Ace 3 is coming in September, so look out for that. But
Cool.
Dark Hawk was a huge influence on me as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I grew up on Spider-Man and X-Men. Those were like the two big books that kind of introduced me to comics. But after that, I started like discovering all the side books, all the side characters that Marvel was creating, and then stumbled across Dark Hawk #1, man, and it just like hooked me. Dark Hawk became like one of my top guys. Like I just loved the book. Danny Fingeroff was the writer on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first 25 issues are super underrated. After that, it kind of loses its way, sadly.
Hmm.
But I think telling the story of this young guy who discovers this amulet and gets this android armor, and now has to learn how to be a hero.
Uh-huh.
This is so much fun as a kid. I saw a lot of myself in Chris Powell. He's this young kid who lost his dad, and now he's trying to be a teenager in high school, and he's trying to figure out what kind of hero does he want to be. He comes across Spider-Man, who kind of reads him the riot act early in the comic book, because he thinks he's one of these young kind of Punisher wannabes, and
Gotcha.
he has to set him straight, and he actually runs into Punisher later on in the series and Captain America, and he
Nice.
kind of figures out what kind of hero he wants to be and what kind of man he is really as a young kind of like high school kid.
Hmm.
Yeah, I thought it's really, I think it's super underrated book. Like I said, I think the first 25 issues are really top notch. And I think Danny Finger really had like a big impact on me as a writer, and just like on the Ace itself. Like I said, anybody who's read the book kind of sees uh, the imprint it left on me. I think it's a really great concept and a really kind of fun character story. And I think part of the reason why I did the Ace was because I thought stuff like that was missing in comics, and I wanted to kind of bring that kind of storytelling back. With my own kind of twist to it,
Yeah, of
because
course.
people clearly see like the differences, from like that I put in it. But I just think, like I said, I'm a big fan of the character. I think he always had a untapped potential, and like I said, the fact that Danny was able to make this character one of my favorites, while you had Spider-Man, you had X-Men, you had all these kind of crazy Marvel books, but
Mm-hmm.
something about Darkhawk spoke to me when I was a teenager, and it just
Well, it's cool because it's like that street level character, right? Like he fits in with Daredevil and Spider-Man, and it's fighting crime and fighting bad guys, and obviously he can get caught up in something bigger, but it's similar to Spider-Man because Spider-Man was a high school student too
mhm,
when he
yeah,
became Spider-Man, and
definitely very much inspired by like the early Spider-Man.
yeah, it's cool. I remember reading Darkhawk when I was a kid. He was fun,
It
and
was,
his design too, right? Like it just totally speaks to a teenager.
yeah, just really cool, fun book. Any other influences from you want to mention before we?
Well, lately, I've actually been a lot of Batman. My buddy Jay, he loves Batman. Like Batman is his favorite hero, and Joker is his favorite villain. So two I've caught recently are the Court of Owls. I got that right here. I didn't even know what I was buying at the time, but I got the unwrapped, so it's all just the pencils.
Oh,
And
nice.
this storyline is absolutely bonkers. And then Death of the Family is a good one, where it's all the Bat family all have a involvement in it, and the Joker's at the heart of it. And Joker is obviously like the greatest villain that Batman has to face, and I think he's probably top 3 for me for villains. Like I love Thanos, obviously, and then I'm a big Star Wars fan, so Darth Vader. One comic though that always stands out for me, and I have that here too because I was looking at it earlier, is this edition of Spider-Man.
Oh, nice.
And what my dad bought this for me when I was a kid. I remember we were visiting family in Edmonton, and he went out with his cousin and brought this book back. And I was reading it, and it's so not written for kids because it's this concept. And I only ever got this one. I really need to go out and find the rest because it ends so well. The Kraven the Hunter basically takes out Spider-Man and becomes Spider-Man and defeats the enemies that Spider-Man could never defeat. And by the end, there's this great dual battle happening where Spider-Man is fighting Vermin because Spider-Man couldn't beat Vermin because Vermin was too savage, but Kraven did. So then Kraven pits Spider-Man against Vermin. But meanwhile, like just kind of out in the street, you have a rat fighting a spider. And you keep bouncing back and forth between the two fights. And then ultimately the rat kills the spider. And Vermin is about to kill Spider-Man when Kraven stops him and then sets him free. So Spider-Man leaves to go follow Vermin and try to track him down. But then the book ends with Spider-Man swinging away and Kraven looking at the picture of his family from the Russian Revolution days, basically, because he's got some kind of magic happening that kept him young. And he commits suicide and falls into his casket, and there's just blood all over like the picture of his family, and you just see his arm hanging out of the casket and the guns on the ground. And I remember like looking at this page, just like, I wonder if I should just bring it up. And being like a 9-year-old kid, I was just like, what is even happening here? Yeah, let's see here.
It's crazy.
Whoa. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. Like there's Kraven. That's how he ends. And reading that as a kid was like, oh, this is a different thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like there's so many great Spider-Man comics. He's a character that has like just such an infinite amount of just like writers and artists and creators who worked on him that you could almost tell any sort of story with him, and it'll work. So yeah, that's awesome.
And him and Batman arguably have kind of the best rogues gallery collection.
Definitely.
They both have to be over 100, right? Like
yeah, easy. Yeah,
100 different villains. I don't know if you ever played video games, a series of Batman games, like there was Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, where you get to be Batman, and the number of villains you fight in that game is like there's just so many, and like just little even Easter eggs where you just find a clue about one of the other bad guys who are out there that aren't even in the game. Those games were a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So yep. So yeah, why don't we talk some about your book right here, Atlas of Cydonia.
Here it is.
The mailing list is open now. We have the link is in the description, so please go hit the link, sign up, check out this project. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about it?
Sure. So this is the first book in an ongoing series. So this kind of taps into that love of fantasy that I had. So the fantasy books are always a big, like if they're a trilogy or 7 books or something like that. So that's what we're doing with Atlas of Cydonia. And this first book serves as the prologue. And one of the big things it introduces is the world itself. For me, the world Cydonia is a big star, and it's a really unique design. I've been working on this story for over 25 years. So if you see the O in Cydonia has the ring around it, that's because the planet itself is circled by a ring like Saturn, and it has obviously impact on the story and the world. Religious and spiritual for different cultures in the world. That's something that I find interesting to explore, is how different cultures, whether like depending on like their level of civilization or more primitive to like tribal and how they perceive this ring. So that world building is built into it. But for the first book, I should stay focused. I'll just start wandering off for days with you. It introduces the world, but then we get to like a signature event, like the death of Christ. It's a resetting of the calendar, and it's this foundational moment in the world. And there's you could say like it's the unstoppable force, which is this army of this the villain. His name is Kadim, is marching on the last free city, and it's called Cloud Peak. And the king is dealing with internal corruption, where some of his counselors are telling him, you need to surrender because we can't beat this army. But he's devoted to the cause of freedom and liberty, and he's not about to give it up. And we have this big action-packed sequence it's about the book itself is going to be over 60 pages, and the lion's share of it will be this story that takes place. And technically it's in the past because it's serving as a prologue of the story at large. So it's 990 years before the proper story begins. And it's a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of great action. The art is really great. Jay's killing it. We're working with an inker out of the Philippines named Ernest Jockson, and he has inked Jim Lee, kind of like the gambit of great artists out there. He was trained at a local Marvel school. I forget the name of the artist who built the school out there or founded the school. Philip Tan mentioned it the other day, but he did this school, and he's been doing inking for like 20 years or so, and he's working with us, and his inks are so good on top of Jay's pencils that we've opted to go like the black and white route. And having the Japanese influence that Jay and I both really appreciate, we've decided to pursue that black and white in the manga style. And obviously it's good too because it brings down the cost a little bit, but just the visual of that black and white is beautiful. And then the book will end with a little introduction to the present day and what's happening. And we take advantage of those couple of pages right at the end to introduce of the major villain of the primary storyline as we go forward.
That's awesome.
And then, we're hoping to going black and white will allows us a lot of freedom in the speed that we can produce. And we're really hoping to produce like maybe 3 books a year and, maybe 180 pages ish. Obviously that's wishful thinking. We're learning a lot with this first book, but that's the goal. The story itself is really big. So the faster we can do it, the less it's in my head.
Right. Let's check out this trailer here. Hopefully my StreamYard will hold up. Let's give it a shot.
Let's see what we got here. I don't even know what's on this. Oh,
so it's a video unavailable.
Oh, that's strange. You know what? I think it was just a link to our to something we have on our channel. You don't even need to worry about that. We don't have an official trailer done yet. That's that's on our list. But definitely, if you want to keep track of our project, check us out on YouTube at Desolate Soul Studios. Follow Jay and I on Twitter. We're a little bit on Instagram, but we're primarily on Twitter, and we keep all of our all the updates there.
That's awesome. You see the link to the YouTube channels in the chat. Like I said, you have the link to the mailing list is in the description, so you can click on that. Go ahead and show some love to these guys. They're working on a really cool project. And they got a great YouTube channel. Like I said, you can go check that out. They got some great interviews. So man, son, I'm looking forward to got to have you on again when you put out that trailer and you show off some more art and stuff.
Absolutely. We're anticipating the book to be ready in the fall. And like we want the book as close to finished, if not entirely done, before we really go.
That's it's hard, but it saves you a lot of headaches. because like as we discussed, there will be headaches.
Oh
You
yeah.
can't avoid that. Can't avoid that. So you want as little headaches as possible when you're dealing with your own project. So it's always cool.
They're endless.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, before we get out of here, I just want to shout out my book, Raid of the White Leopard, book one. Right there, as you can see, we're 86% of the way funded. We got like 214 bucks left before we get over that the 1500 mark, where this book becomes a reality. We're going all or nothing on this, though. So thank you to everybody who's backed it so far and shared it out. It's much appreciated. Let's just kind of push and see if we can get over that mark, man. And like I said, I'm super happy with the response that people have had to this. This is a story I've been working on for a couple of years with Avery. Avery's work is absolutely fantastic. I have a lot of the original pages for especially the Viking stuff, which is just like tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man, if you're a fan of Vikings, you're a fan of mystery and twists and turns. Got a lot of stuff that on the campaign page that people don't exactly know how it all comes together. So there's the fun of kind of like the mystery of the story. It's got tons of action packed in here. Just like tremendous work by Avery. I cannot put over his work enough. The pages just get better and better. You think the ones that I'm showing are good? No, the ones that I'm keeping are even better. So there's going to be a lot of surprises and mystery in this. And yeah, we're hoping to do 3 books, get them funded, and tell this kind of one big epic story.
How many pages is this one?
It's a floppy. It's 20 pages.
Oh, okay, sweet.
Yeah, so we're trying to do a couple of floppies and then put together like a big trade edition. They got a nice
Mm-hmm.
hardcover, which is something I've wanted to do for a while now. I think this is like the actual perfect thing for that. Something
Yeah,
that we can
definitely.
get out quickly, especially if we can get it funded. I can get right to work on the second script. I just got to tighten it up. I already have like a loose outline, but I don't like to get too ahead of projects. I only kind of start really crafting everything together or when it's ready to go. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'll have a lot of cool ideas. I already got panels and stuff that's in my head that I can't wait to like give to Avery and see what he does with it.
Oh,
He's a
absolutely.
madman. Every time I give him something that I think is cool, I get the pages back. It's even cooler. I'm like, so
Mm-hmm.
uh,
So
that's
one
the fun
question I
thing
have for
about it.
you is
Yeah, go
when you
ahead.
get the pages back from him, do you edit your script?
I do sometimes.
Yeah.
Depending on what he does. It's very kind of. I do a panel by panel breakdown of everything.
Mm-hmm.
But between that, I always tell my artists to, if you feel like you can make this better or you can put your own twist on it, go for it. I could always pull you back.
Mm-hmm.
Avery's always been good about changes, and then sometimes he'll surprise me with something. I'm like, wow, that's even better.
Cool.
So,
Awesome.
and then the letter always gets everything last,
Yeah.
so by the time I'm done, everything is looked over, it's edited, it's, that it has multiple eyes on it, so by the time the letter gets to, it's pretty simple. Everything's already pretty much done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, it's always fun working with my artist. This is the second time I've gone with Avery, and he's just, the guy is just great, man. Like just
Mm-hmm.
cannot say enough good about him. He really he's the perfect guy for this book. Like I can't imagine anybody else doing it. Like I think he's just he was tremendous, and I'm happy to be working with him. Hopefully, you work with him some more. And like I said, keep telling this really kind of fun, badass story.
Absolutely. And so he does the pencils and inks?
Yep, he does all of that. He pencils and inks, and then he does the gray tones over it with the like digital. He goes over it.
Yeah.
And just just these pages just get better every time I get like a new page, man. It just there's so much detail to the panels,
Mm-hmm.
the different stuff is just like and we also have original art pages that are on the campaign for anybody who's a fan of this. If you want to grab a page, I think it's super reasonably priced.
Mm-hmm.
The book itself, it's 20 shipped US, and we had like a coupon code for the mailing list, so it brings it down to like 17. So I think
Nice.
it's a pretty good deal for
Yeah,
everything
absolutely.
involved.
For sure.
So yeah, the link is in the description. You can go back it. Please go share it out to people if you know anybody who's into this kind of art, these kind of stories, please help get the eyeballs on it. We're trying to go and grow Fund My Comic, this new platform that's giving people a chance to put their books out. So I'm super happy with how everything's turned out so far.
That's great. Yeah, I've heard about those guys at Fund My Comic. They seem to be doing really good work.
Yeah, and just been doing killer work so far. I've been super happy with them and their platform. Like I said, hopefully we can get more eyes on it and just kind of keep growing that brand and keep having people just keep putting up new books, new projects, and building an excitement. Kind of
Well,
reminds
they
me
have
of
a big get, right? Because they just got Kelsey Shannon to come
yeah,
on board.
Kelsey.
Yeah,
I've been waiting for Kelsey to finally do his own thing. He's been doing other people's projects, and now he's finally gonna do his own thing, which is gonna be awesome. So
the Blaster Kid, right?
yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait for that. Kelsey's as talented an artist as there is around here, and like I said, watching him do his own thing finally is gonna be super fun. So
Yeah, for
check
sure.
that out. All right, so we're about the 45-minute mark. That's when we kind of wind this down. So,
Sure.
John, thank you for coming on. It was a fun discussion. Why don't you let
Totally.
everybody know where they can find you and everything that you're doing?
Well, you can, like I said, you can find us at Desolate Soul Studios on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss out on anything. We have a pretty our chat's growing better and better every show. It's a lot of the same faces that you'll see here and there, but it's lively. And then obviously you can get me at Atlas of Cydonia on Twitter and Instagram. And yeah, follow along so that when the book Atlas of Cydonia comes out, you're ready to pick it up. It's gonna be a really fun ride, and if you enjoy fantasy like George R.R. Martin type thing with a Japanese Roman twist and a lot of books, I confess that the story is a big one. But if you enjoy that type of storytelling, then this is the book for you.
Oh yeah. All right, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Edwin Aces for any updates, news, or anything that's going on with any of my projects. That's the spot to be. I'll be back here on the Writer's Cut in 2 weeks with another fun guest. Go check me on the Hardline tomorrow, 10 p.m. on our Zaid Comics channel. I'll be with the boys, talking nonsense and having fun. So, hail to the chat. Everybody was hanging out with us. Piggy, Fanta, you guys rock. And you guys have a good night.
Hail to the chat.
Peace.